C-sections suck. At least that is all that we seem to hear about one of two birthing options. So, as we all know, you are either going to deliver that baby by cesarean section or you are going to have a vaginal birth. And on my side of the internet, all I seem to see people talking about is the downsides of having a C-section. And although way more women than normal are having to have C-sections, we know medical interventions a lot of time lead to C-sections. So there are too many women, in my opinion, having C-sections against their will. So I'm not promoting C-sections by any means. I'm promoting free will and informed decision making. I have experienced a C-section that was unplanned. I've experienced a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean section, and I experienced a scheduled C-section. So I have experienced every possible birth outcome aside from a home birth, which I attempted, but I did not succeed with my home birth. That water birth, I have PTSD. Okay, that's a whole nother topic for another video on another day. What I want to talk about today is recovering from a vaginal birth. And unfortunately, it is not cut and dry, no pun intended, but it is not just black and white when we talk about vaginal birth. And I think the conversation is pretty biased. At least, a quick Google search will show you that way more people advocate for vaginal birth as the natural method of birth than C-sections. And I can admit, when I was pregnant with my first son, I was one of those people that was talking about, the statistics behind Black women being forced into having C-sections, and I was dead set on not having a C-section myself. I was all set up for a home water birth. Again, that did not work. I ended up in the hospital being induced. The induction failed, and 46 hours into labor later, I ended up having a C-section. But my C-section recovery honestly wasn't so bad. However, because I did not get my way and I did not get the birth that I wanted, I decided that I was going to try for a VBAC, a vaginal birth after cesarean with my second son. And I absolutely feel like I played myself and I set myself up for failure. So, with my second son, even though they tried to get me to schedule a C section, which they typically do, if you've had one C section, they want to try to get you to go ahead and schedule the next C section because they will give you a laundry list of risks of why you should not have a vaginal birth after you've had a C section. There's tons of, research out there on all of the things that could go wrong. They, a lot of times will tell you you're not a good candidate for a vaginal birth after a C-section if it hasn't been a long enough time between your births, if your scar hasn't had enough time to heal. There's all of these reasons why you should not have a VBAC, but what it really boils down to is most doctors are scared to attempt to do a VBAC. It really doesn't have anything to do with your body. It has to do with their liability and their fears. So they will absolutely try to discourage you from having a VBAC if that's what you choose to do. But I was not listening to that because of my first experience. So I did not schedule it like they wanted me to. And I actually went 3 days past my due date because I refused to go to the hospital and allow them to induce me again. So I was due on December 26th. On December 29th is when I actually went into labor at home on my own around 5 o'clock in the morning. Literally woke me up out of my sleep having contractions. I was texting my midwife, like, I think I'm in labor. This is what is happening. What's going on? And she was literally like coaching me through the whole thing. And so I ended up laboring at home from 5 a.m. until I got to the hospital around 8 p.m. that night. So I labored at home, unmedicated, in my bathtub or sitting on the toilet. That's where I found the most comfort or the most relief. Ended up at the hospital. I waited till the last possible minute because, again, I did not want to deal with any medical I didn't want them to have control over my birth experience is what it really boiled down to. So I waited till I, could not take it anymore. Ended up being 8 centimeters dilated by the time I got to the hospital. And that was around 8 p.m. I ended up having my son around midnight. So that was my vaginal birth experience. Labored at home. I think that the natural contractions, were actually easier to deal with than the forced or fake contractions that you have when you are induced. Um, and the pushing part after I got my epidural, because I got the epidural as soon as I got to the hospital, but I might have pushed for like an hour. When I tell you that I tore, so even though I pushed for an hour, that lady was literally stitching up my tear for longer than it took for me to push my baby out. That's how bad I teared. Now, I don't remember if it was a first degree, second degree, whatever degree, but I know there was a lot of stitches. It took a lot of time. That lady was really rough with her sewing, and my recovery was horrible. I was in excruciating pain when I sat down, when I stood up, when I walked. Like me existing was painful after my vaginal birth. And the only thing that brought me any type of comfort or relief was tucks, which are like medicated pads. They're like soaked, not pads in the sense of like menstrual pads that you know what a sanitary napkin is. Not that kind of pad, but they're literally like um, cotton pads that are like the little cotton rounds that you sometimes will like wipe your face with. They're those, but they're soaked in peroxide and some other medical stuff that makes you feel relief when you put it inside of your sanitary napkin. So sanitary napkin, tucks pads on top, and it's like wet and cold, and it's the only thing that made me feel better. But it literally took me months to recover and to feel better. Not back to normal. Okay, that might have taken more than a year, but at least months for me to feel okay. I was in excruciating pain. Attempting to have sex after a vaginal tear is torture. And again, I was not expecting this because I had only heard horrible things about C-section recovery. I had never heard about the terrible things that could happen after a vaginal tear. So I was not expecting this at all. I thought it was going to be rainbows and sunshines, and I was just going to bounce right back to it because this is what happens when you have a vaginal birth, right? Wrong. Okay. The 6 weeks came and went, and I was still terrified to have sex because I was in so much pain. So this time around, when I got pregnant and I was considering, like, will I do another VBAC or will I just schedule my C-section? What am I going to do? I ended up putting up this post on Threads, and I'm like, let's talk about this vaginal tearing situation. And I got hundreds of mothers who commented on my post talking about their vaginal tears and the impact that it had on their mental health and their physical health. I saw women talking about the fact that them vaginally tearing during childbirth almost led to them getting a divorce because they were in such bad shape. They were in so much pain. They were so scared to have sex again because of the pain that they were experiencing that their husbands were like, okay, sis, I got it after the 6 weeks, but 6 months? You're not having sex with your husband for 6 months because you are in pain, which is totally understandable. I understand, though, how that could start to impact your mental health, his mental health, and your marriage. So I think that we are not having enough conversations about the recovery. I feel like the conversations in terms of pregnancy stops at delivery, and nobody's really having enough conversations about postpartum, which is truly like your fourth trimester. And it can be traumatizing and terrifying if you land in your fourth trimester and you are unprepared. So, hopefully, this conversation will at least help you to prepare if you do plan on having a vaginal birth. Now, there is a lot of information out there about preventing vaginal tearing, which is what I want to share with you quickly, because this is a conversation that I had with my midwife when I was pregnant the first time. When I was planning on doing a home birth, I did have conversations around not tearing. But this second time, when I wasn't um, working with my midwife because I knew that I was going to have a hospital birth, I wasn't so intentional about not tearing. It just wasn't something that I was thinking about or focused on. But a couple of the things that I want to share with you that I did know, I just wasn't thinking about it in the moment. One, the best way to avoid this trauma is to avoid tearing. One of the best ways that you can avoid tearing is by doing, I think it's perennial, I think that's how you say it, perennial massages, which is basically you massaging your vagina. You like massaging that hole to try to uh moisturize it and give it more elasticity so that it could stretch without tearing. So you can do the perennial massage, and you can also use evening primrose oil, which is a type of oil that you can use while you are doing the massage. So with my first pregnancy, I had this oil. I was doing the massages, and then I ended up having a C-section. So by the time I got pregnant the second time and actually needed to do the massage and needed to do use this oil, I wasn't thinking about it anymore. That information had gone in one ear and out the other. So don't be like me. Be better than me. If you are pregnant, if you are thinking about getting pregnant, if you have a homegirl that's pregnant, please share this information and take action on this information. Okay. Do all that you can to avoid tearing. The last way that you can avoid tearing, and this is probably the number one reason why people tear, is because they are pushing on demand instead of pushing when nature calls. Instead of allowing your body to do what it knows how to do, your body will naturally push when it's time to push. But most doctors don't want to wait for your body to feel like pushing. So they're going to force you to push. They're going to tell you when to start pushing. They're going to tell you when to stop pushing. And because you are going against nature and literally trying to force that baby out of your body against its will, that's how you end up tearing. That's how you can split yourself from the rooter to the tutor, is because you are forcing your body to do something that it's not yet ready to do. So if you can avoid forced pushing, which it's hard to avoid it because most of the time you're being coached by the doctor or the midwife. You're being coached to push because they think they know when it's time to push, versus you trusting your body to naturally push when you feel the urge to push. So the best way to recover from a vaginal tear is to not tear at all by being proactive so that you can hopefully prevent tearing at all. I hope that you are encouraged to choose your own birth plan, to be an advocate for yourself, to allow your body to do what your body was made to do. Our bodies are literally magical. Mothers are superheroes. And if we just trust ourselves, trust our instincts, and work with doctors who we trust so that they're not trying to force us to do things that our bodies are not yet prepared to do, then that's how we can have the healthiest, happiest pregnancy and leave that hospital with a healthy body and with your vagina in one piece. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because I am doing a daily upload challenge. It used to be a daily live stream challenge where I was challenging myself to go live every day for 30 days. But baby, the way these kids are set up, I said, okay, y'all are going to get content every day, but it might not be live content. But thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you are interested in all things mindset, motherhood, and money. I am Koereyelle, and I am your favorite homegirl, here to give you the information and conversations that will help you stop playing with your potential and make the most of your motherhood journey. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow.